Commander Zethkri had conquered 17 star systems without losing a single battle. His reputation among the Kaltharan Empire stretched across 3 galactic sectors, and his tactical brilliance was studied in military academies on 100 worlds. Standing nearly 9 feet tall with crystalline blue skin that reflected light like polished metal, he commanded respect through both his imposing presence and his unmatched strategic mind. The bridge of his flagship, the Dominion's Edge, hummed with quiet efficiency. Holographic displays showed the peaceful blue-green world rotating slowly below them. Earth, the humans called it. Intelligence reports had described it as a relatively young civilization, barely having achieved faster-than-light travel within the last century. Their military technology appeared primitive compared to Kaltharan plasma weapons and energy shields. This should have been another routine conquest. "Sir, we're receiving multiple transmissions from the planetary surface," reported Lieutenant Vexen, her forearms dancing across multiple control panels simultaneously. "They appear to be surrender negotiations." Zethkri's mandibles clicked in satisfaction. "As expected, patch me through to their leadership." The main screen flickered to life, showing a middle-aged human woman in what appeared to be formal diplomatic attire. Her brown hair was pulled back neatly, and despite the circumstances, her voice remained steady. "I am Secretary General Chen of the United Earth Coalition. We've received your ultimatum and request parley before any military action begins." "A wise decision," Zethkri replied, his translator converting his clicks and harmonics into human language. "I am Commander Zethkri of the Kaltharan Empire. Your world has been selected for integration into our domain. Surrender now, and your people will be treated with the dignity afforded to all Imperial citizens. Resist and face the consequences of defying superior force." Secretary General Chen's expression didn't change. "We understand your position, Commander. However, we have a counter-proposal. We request a demonstration of your military capabilities against one of our defensive installations. If you can destroy it within 1 standard hour, we will surrender unconditionally." Zethkri's tactical officers exchanged glances. This was unusual. Most civilizations either surrendered immediately upon seeing a Kaltharan fleet or began desperate defensive maneuvers. They rarely asked for demonstrations. "You wish us to prove our superiority?" Zethkri asked, intrigued despite himself. "Very well. Designate your target. There's an abandoned military facility on the continent they call North America. Coordinates are being transmitted now. It's approximately 50 kilometers from any civilian populations, built into the side of a mountain. We'll evacuate the surrounding area to ensure no innocents are harmed." The tactical display updated with the target information. Zethkri studied the facility's specifications. It appeared to be a reinforced bunker complex, probably used for weapons storage or command operations. Destroying it would indeed demonstrate Kaltharan firepower while avoiding civilian casualties. An honorable approach which earned the humans a small measure of respect in his estimation. Acceptable. Begin your evacuation procedures. In 1 of your hours, that facility will cease to exist. The transmission ended and Zethkri turned to his weapons officer. "Prepare a full torpedo spread. Target the mountain facility. We'll give them a display they won't forget." As the human evacuation proceeded, Zethkri found himself oddly impressed by their efficiency. Thermal sensors showed rapid but organized movement of population centers near the target zone. Their emergency response systems worked with surprising coordination for such a young civilization. "Sir," Intelligence Officer Mordak approached with a data pad. "I've been analyzing their military communications during the evacuation. Something seems unusual." "Explain." "Their chatter is remarkably calm. No panic, no desperation. They're treating this like a routine exercise, rather than a demonstration that will determine their planet's fate. It's almost as if—" Mordak hesitated. "As if what?" "As if they expected this, sir. Their response patterns match prepared protocols rather than improvised reactions." Zethkri considered this information. In his experience, civilizations facing overwhelming force displayed predictable emotional responses. Fear, anger, desperate bargaining, or resigned acceptance. The humans seemed to be exhibiting none of these patterns. "Perhaps they've simply accepted the inevitable," he concluded. "Maintain targeting solutions and prepare to fire on my command." The hour passed quickly. Long-range sensors confirmed the evacuation zone was clear of human life signs. The target facility sat empty in its mountain valley, waiting for destruction. "All weapons ready, sir," reported the weapons officer. "Fire." 6 antimatter torpedoes streaked toward the planet's surface, their exhaust trails painting brilliant lines across space. Each torpedo contained enough destructive force to level a city block. The mountain facility would be vaporized along with several cubic kilometers of surrounding rock and earth. The first torpedo struck. Instead of the expected explosion, a brilliant blue energy field materialized around the entire mountain. The antimatter charge detonated harmlessly against what appeared to be some form of protective barrier. The second torpedo met the same fate, then the third. "What is that?" Zethkri demanded, his calm beginning to crack. "Unknown energy signature, sir. Appears to be some form of defensive shielding, but the technology doesn't match anything in our databases." The fourth, fifth, and sixth torpedoes struck in rapid succession. Each one produced spectacular light displays as their antimatter cores were safely contained and dispersed by the mysterious blue field. When the final explosion faded, the mountain facility stood completely undamaged. Secretary General Chen's face reappeared on the main screen. Her expression hadn't changed, but there was something in her eyes that made Zethkri's blood run cold. "Thank you for the demonstration, Commander. Very impressive firepower. Now we'd like to show you something in return." The blue energy field around the mountain facility suddenly expanded, growing larger and brighter. Within moments it had formed a perfect sphere nearly a kilometer in diameter. Then, without warning, the entire sphere launched itself into space. "Impossible," whispered the tactical officer. "That's not a shield. It's some form of weapon system." The energy sphere accelerated at impossible speeds, racing toward the Caltheran fleet. Zethkri watched in growing horror as his most advanced sensors struggled to track its movements. "Evasive maneuvers," he commanded. "All ships scatter formation." But the sphere wasn't targeting his ships. Instead, it positioned itself exactly 1,000 kilometers from the fleet and simply stopped. Then it began to pulse with increasing intensity. "Sir," the communications officer's voice was barely a whisper, "we're receiving another transmission from the planet." On screen, Secretary General Chen looked directly into the camera. "Commander, what you just witnessed was our most basic planetary defense system. It's designed to demonstrate capability, not destroy. However, we have 47 more installations like this one positioned around our planet. Each one is significantly more powerful than what you just saw." She paused, letting the implications sink in. "We're not surrendering, Commander. We're offering you the opportunity to leave our system with your fleet intact. You have 1 hour to make your decision." Zethkri stared at the energy sphere hovering motionless near his fleet. In 30 years of military service, he had never encountered anything like it. The sphere pulsed with contained power that made his ship's sensors scream warnings with every beat. His tactical computers couldn't even classify what they were looking at. "Analysis report," he demanded, though his voice had lost some of its earlier confidence. "Sir, the energy readings are unlike anything in our database," Science Officer Telmora replied, her usual composure shaken. "The power output appears to be increasing exponentially, but it's completely contained within the sphere's boundary. If this is their basic defense system, I cannot calculate the potential of their more advanced installations." The bridge fell silent except for the persistent warning chimes from various monitoring systems. Zethkri had built his reputation on careful analysis and overwhelming force application. But the humans had just demonstrated technology that defied his understanding of physics. Communications. "Get me Admiral Krexthor at high command. Sir, with respect. That will take several hours for transmission and response across this distance." Zethkri's mandibles clicked in frustration. He was accustomed to making decisions with complete information, but the humans had stripped away that luxury. Every moment he delayed gave them more time to prepare additional surprises. "Sir," Lieutenant Vexen interrupted carefully, "we're detecting massive energy signatures emerging from multiple points across the human planet. It appears they're activating additional defense systems." The main display updated to show dozens of blue energy signatures blooming to life across Earth's surface. Each one appeared similar to the sphere now watching his fleet, but the power readings varied dramatically. Some were smaller, others were significantly larger. "How many installations do you count?" Zethkri asked quietly. 47 confirmed energy signatures, sir," exactly as their leader stated. A cold realization crept through Zethkri's consciousness. The humans hadn't been caught off guard by his arrival. They had been prepared. More than prepared, they had been waiting. "Sir, incoming transmission from the planet." the communications officer announced. "Put them through." Secretary General Chen appeared again, but this time she wasn't alone. Standing beside her was a tall man in military dress uniform, his bearing suggesting high rank. Behind them, a massive display showed tactical information that made Zethkri's blood freeze. "Commander, allow me to introduce General Harrison, our defense coordinator. He'd like to share some information that might interest you." General Harrison stepped forward. Unlike the diplomat, his expression was hard and direct. "Commander Zethkri, we've been monitoring your fleet since you entered our system 3 days ago. We know you command 42 ships, including your flagship. We know your weapons capabilities, your shield strengths, and your tactical preferences based on your previous 17 conquests." The display behind him showed detailed specifications of every ship in Zethkri's fleet. Information that should have been impossible for the humans to obtain. "How?" Zethkri managed to ask. "We've been watching the Kaltharan Empire for quite some time," General Harrison continued. "Every world you've conquered, every battle you've fought, every tactical decision you've made. We've studied your methods very carefully." Secretary General Chen resumed speaking. "Commander, Earth isn't just another primitive world waiting to be conquered. We've been preparing for contact with hostile alien civilizations for over 2 centuries. Every defensive system you see was designed specifically to counter advanced alien technology." "Impossible," Zethkri protested. "Your civilization has barely achieved faster than light travel. Your intelligence reports told you what we wanted them to." General Harrison interrupted. "Those primitive ships you detected? They're specifically designed to appear less advanced than they actually are. We've been spreading across the galaxy for decades, Commander. We just don't announce our presence like you do." The tactical display shifted, showing star charts that made Zethkri's hearts skip. Human settlements dotted systems throughout the local galaxy cluster. Not primitive colonies, but fully developed military installations and research facilities. "You see, Commander, we learned something important from studying your empire's expansion," Secretary General Chen explained. "Civilizations that announce their strength become targets, but civilizations that hide their strength can choose their battles." Zethkri felt his worldview crumbling. The Kaltharan Empire prided itself on superior intelligence gathering. How had they missed a human civilization spread across dozens of star systems? "Sir," his intelligence officer whispered urgently, "I'm detecting massive ships emerging from behind their moon. They were completely hidden from our sensors." The main display updated to show sleek vessels rising from lunar concealment. Each ship was roughly the same size as Kaltharan destroyers, but their design was completely alien. "No," Zethkri corrected himself, "not alien. Human." And they moved with precision that spoke of advanced technology and experienced crews. "How many ships?" he asked, dreading the answer. "Initial count shows 15 vessels, sir, but sensors are detecting additional movement from the far side of their star. It appears they have significant forces positioned throughout this system." General Harrison's voice cut through the bridge chatter. "Commander, we currently have 63 ships in this system alone. Each one is specifically designed to counter Kaltharan technology. We've had a very long time to prepare. What do you want?" Zethkri asked, his voice barely steady. "Nothing from you personally, Commander," Secretary General Chen replied. "But we want the Kaltharan Empire to understand something very important. Humanity is not a primitive species waiting to be conquered. We are not victims." The energy sphere near Zethkri's fleet suddenly began moving again, but not toward his ships. Instead, it positioned itself near an asteroid roughly the size of his flagship. What happened next would haunt Zethkri's dreams for the rest of his life. The sphere touched the asteroid and simply unmade it. Not destroyed, not vaporized, not blown apart. The rock ceased to exist as if it had never been there at all. No debris, no energy signature, no trace that it had ever occupied that space. "That was our absolute minimum power setting," General Harrison explained calmly. "Commander, we don't want to fight you. We don't want to destroy your fleet or harm your crews, but we want you to carry a message back to your empire." "What message?" Zethkri whispered. Secretary General Chen looked directly into the camera. "Tell them that humanity has been waiting for them. Tell them we know about their expansion, their tactics, their technology. Tell them that if they want war with us, we are more than ready to provide it." She paused, letting her words sink in. "But also tell them that we prefer peace. We're willing to establish diplomatic relations, trade agreements, cultural exchanges. The choice is entirely theirs." General Harrison added, Commander, you have 2 hours to leave our system. After that, we'll consider your presence an act of war. And unlike previous civilizations you've encountered, we are fully prepared to respond in kind. The transmission ended, leaving Zeth Kree alone with his shattered assumptions and terrified crew. Around his fleet, human ships moved with casual confidence, neither threatening nor yielding. They simply waited, patient as predators who knew they held every advantage. The bridge of the Dominion's edge had never been so quiet. Zeth Kree stood motionless before the main display, watching human vessels maneuver around his fleet with movements so precise they seemed choreographed. Each ship maintained perfect formation while demonstrating capabilities that defied everything he thought he knew about warfare. "Sir," Weapons Officer Kralvek spoke carefully. "Should we prepare for combat?" The question hung in the air like a death sentence. Zeth Kree had faced overwhelming odds before and emerged victorious through superior tactics and technology. But this situation was different. The humans hadn't just revealed superior technology, they had revealed that they understood Kaltharan technology better than the Kaltharans themselves. "Run tactical simulations," Zeth Kree ordered quietly. "Assume full combat engagement with human forces. I want probability assessments for various scenarios." His tactical team worked in tense silence for several minutes. When they finished, the results appeared on his personal display. Zeth Kree read them twice, hoping he had misunderstood something fundamental about the data. Fleet survival probability, 0.3%. Individual ship survival probability, 12% mission success probability, 0.0%, sir. Science Officer Telmora approached cautiously. "I've been analyzing the energy signature from the sphere that eliminated the asteroid. The technology appears to operate on principles we don't understand. It's not antimatter, plasma, or kinetic force. It simply negates matter at the molecular level." Zeth Kree's mandibles clicked nervously. In 3 decades of military service, he had never seen a 0.0% mission success probability. Even suicidal charges against impossible odds typically showed some mathematical chance of achieving objectives. "Communications," he called out. "Patch me through to the human leadership again." Secretary General Chen appeared on screen almost immediately, as if she had been waiting for his call. Behind her, the same tactical displays showed real-time positions of every ship in both fleets. "Commander," she greeted him politely. "Have you reached a decision?" "I need to understand something," Zeth Kree said. "Your defensive capabilities are clearly superior to our offensive ones. Why offer us the choice to leave? Why not simply destroy us?" Chen's expression softened slightly. "Because, Commander, destruction solves nothing. You destroy us, you gain a dead world. We destroy you. We gain nothing but enemies who will eventually return with larger fleets. But if we can establish communication, understanding, perhaps even cooperation, both our civilizations benefit." "The Kaltharan Empire doesn't negotiate with inferior species," Zeth Kree replied. Though the words felt hollow even as he spoke them, General Harrison stepped into view. "Commander, with respect, I think recent events have proven that the question of which species is inferior might need re-evaluation." The truth of those words hit Zeth Kree like a physical blow. The Kaltharan Empire's entire identity was built on technological and military superiority. They were the conquerors, the advanced civilization bringing order to primitive worlds. But the humans had just demonstrated that this fundamental assumption was completely false. "Sir," Intelligence Officer Mordak whispered urgently, "I'm detecting additional human ships entering the system. Long-range sensors show a massive fleet approaching from the direction of their outer planets." The tactical display updated to show dozens more human vessels, some larger than anything in the Kaltharan fleet. They moved in perfect formation, their approach timed to arrive exactly as Zeth Kree's deadline expired. "How many ships are we detecting now?" Zeth Kree asked, though he dreaded the answer. 137 confirmed vessels, sir, with more emerging from sensor shadows throughout the system." Secretary General Chen seemed to read his thoughts. "Commander, we're not trying to intimidate you with numbers. We're trying to demonstrate that this isn't a bluff or a desperate gambit. This is our actual military capacity in this system alone." "This system alone?" Zeth Kree repeated weakly. "Humanity spans 43 star systems, Commander. Each one is similarly defended. This is not a war you can win through traditional conquest." The implications crashed through Zeth Kree's mind like a tsunami. The Caltharan Empire's expansion had been based on identifying weak targets and overwhelming them with superior technology. But humanity wasn't weak, wasn't isolated, and wasn't unprepared. They had been watching, learning, and preparing for exactly this scenario. What would diplomatic relations entail? He asked, the words tasting strange in his mouth. General Harrison consulted a datapad. Standard procedure would involve establishing neutral meeting points, exchanging cultural and scientific representatives, and negotiating trade agreements that benefit both civilizations. We're not asking your empire to surrender or submit. We're asking them to recognize that humanity is an equal partner, not a conquest target. Equal partner, Zethkri repeated slowly. The concept was almost incomprehensible. The Caltharan Empire had dominated every species they encountered for over 1,000 years. Equality was not a familiar concept, sir. Communications Officer Plexini interrupted. We are receiving a priority transmission from Admiral Krexthor at High Command. Put it through. Admiral Krexthor's imposing figure filled the screen, his forearms spread in the traditional gesture of imperial authority. Commander Zethkri, your initial reports were concerning. Status update? Zethkri looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew. Each one showed the same mixture of fear, confusion, and shattered certainty that he felt himself. How could he explain to the Admiral that everything they believed about their military superiority was wrong? Admiral, the human civilization is more advanced than our intelligence indicated. How much more advanced? Do you require reinforcements to complete the conquest? The question hung in the air. Zethkri could request additional fleets, drag the Empire into a war that would likely result in catastrophic losses for minimal gain. He could follow protocol and attempt an impossible mission out of pride and tradition, or he could tell the truth. Admiral, our fleet cannot complete this mission. The humans possess technology and military resources that exceed our current capabilities. They have offered diplomatic negotiations as an alternative to armed conflict. The Admiral's expression shifted through several emotions before settling on disbelief. Commander, are you requesting permission to retreat? I am requesting permission to preserve Imperial resources and explore alternative solutions to this situation. Alternative solutions? Commander, the Caltharan Empire does not retreat from primitive civilizations. You will complete your mission or face court-martial for cowardice and dereliction of duty. Zethkri looked at the human fleet surrounding his ships. He thought about the energy sphere that had casually erased an asteroid from existence. He considered the tactical simulations showing 0.0% chance of mission success. Then he made a decision that would change his life forever. Admiral, I formally request immediate recall to Imperial headquarters. I will need to brief High Command personally on the true nature of the human threat. This situation requires strategic reevaluation at the highest levels. Threat? From humans? Commander, you are clearly suffering from some form of mental breakdown. Maintain position and await relief command. The transmission cut off, leaving Zethkri alone with his conscience and his duty. Around him, his bridge crew waited for orders that he was no longer certain he could give. Zethkri stood alone in his private quarters aboard the Dominion's edge, staring out at the stars that had once represented endless opportunities for conquest. Now they seemed cold and distant, filled with civilizations that might be far more dangerous than the Caltharan Empire had ever imagined. His personal communicator chimed with an encrypted message from Admiral Krexthor. The text was brief and devastating. Commander Zethkri, you are relieved of command. Commander Velthar will arrive with reinforcement fleet in 6 standard days. Maintain position. Do not engage human forces. Your recall to Imperial headquarters will follow mission completion. Failure to comply will result in immediate court-martial and execution for treason. 6 days. In 6 days, a new commander would arrive with additional ships and the same arrogant assumptions that had brought Zethkri to this moment of crisis. They would attempt the impossible conquest of humanity, and they would fail catastrophically. Worse, their failure would likely trigger a war between civilizations that could spread across the entire galaxy. A soft chime indicated someone requesting entry to his quarters. Enter, he called out. Science Officer Telmora stepped inside, her crystalline skin dim with worry. Sir, I've completed additional analysis of human technology. The results are troubling. More troubling than complete tactical impossibility? Yes, sir. The energy manipulation technology they demonstrated appears to be based on principles that could theoretically be scaled up indefinitely. If they can eliminate matter at the molecular level, they could potentially eliminate entire planets, star systems, or even larger structures. Zethkri felt his blood chill. You're suggesting they have the capability to destroy worlds? I'm suggesting they have the capability to unmake worlds, sir. Not destroy them, but cause them to simply cease existing. No debris, no radiation, no trace that they were ever there. If humanity possesses this technology on a large scale, the Caltheran Empire's entire military doctrine becomes meaningless. Have you shared this analysis with the crew? No, sir. I thought you should decide how to proceed with this information. Zethkri appreciated her discretion. If his crew understood the true scope of human capabilities, panic would be inevitable. Many of them had families on Calthar homeworld. The thought that their entire civilization might be vulnerable to instant annihilation would destroy morale completely. Sir, Telmora continued carefully, there's something else. I've been monitoring human communications, and they appear to be preparing for something called a demonstration of intent. I'm not certain what that means, but energy readings across their planet are increasing exponentially. Before Zethkri could respond, his communicator activated with an incoming transmission from the human leadership. He returned to the bridge to find his entire command staff gathered around the main display. Secretary General Chen appeared on screen, but her expression was more serious than before. Behind her, General Harrison studied multiple tactical displays with obvious concern. Commander Zethkri, Chen began, we've detected additional Caltheran ships approaching our system. Our deep space monitors show a fleet approximately 3 times the size of your current force, arriving in 6 days. How could you possibly detect ships at that distance? Zethkri asked, though he already dreaded the answer. General Harrison stepped forward. Commander, we've had monitoring stations positioned throughout this sector for decades. We know about every ship movement within 50 light-years of Earth. 50 light-years, Lieutenant Vexon whispered. That's impossible. No sensor technology can achieve that range. Caltheran sensor technology can't achieve that range, Chen corrected gently. We found that assumption and reality don't always align. Zethkri studied the human leaders' expressions. They weren't gloating about their technological superiority or making threats. Instead, they seemed genuinely concerned about the approaching conflict. What do you propose? He asked. We propose that you contact your incoming fleet and convince them not to enter this system, General Harrison replied. If they arrive with hostile intent, we will be forced to respond defensively. Given the scale of the approaching force, our response will necessarily be comprehensive. Comprehensive, Zethkri repeated. Chen looked directly into the camera. Commander, we don't want to destroy your ships or harm your crews, but we will not allow our civilization to be threatened by overwhelming force. If a fleet 3 times your current size enters our system with conquest in mind, we will eliminate it completely. You cannot possibly engage that many ships simultaneously, Weapons Officer Kralvex protested. Officer Kralvex, General Harrison said, apparently having identified the speaker somehow. Your weapons officer is thinking in terms of traditional ship-to-ship combat. We are not. The display behind the human leaders changed to show a 3-dimensional map of local space. Red indicators marked the positions of Zethkri's fleet and the approaching Caltharan reinforcements. Blue indicators showed human installations throughout the system. If the incoming fleet enters our system with hostile intent, we will activate what we call our System Defense Protocol, Chen explained. Every planet, moon, asteroid, and space station in this system will become a weapons platform. We won't engage in ship-to-ship combat, Commander. We'll simply remove all hostile vessels from existence simultaneously. Zethkri stared at the display in horror. The blue indicators weren't just marking defensive positions. They were marking an interconnected network of installations that could, coordinate an attack across the entire solar system. You're telling me that your entire system is weaponized? He asked weakly. Every human system is weaponized, Commander, General Harrison confirmed. It's been our standard defensive doctrine for over a century. We don't build colonies. We build fortresses that happen to support civilian populations. Sir, Intelligence Officer Mordak interrupted urgently. I'm detecting massive energy buildups throughout the human system. Whatever they're preparing to demonstrate, it's beginning now. The main display shifted to show energy readings from across Earth's solar system. Every planet showed increasing power signatures. The moon blazed with contained energy. Even the asteroid belt appeared to be awakening with hidden installations. "Commander," Secretary General Chen's voice cut through the bridge chatter. "We're going to show you what we mean by System Defense Protocol. We're going to target that asteroid field approximately 10 million kilometers from your position." Zethkri looked at the tactical display. The asteroid field contained thousands of rocks ranging from small boulders to planetoids nearly a kilometer in diameter. It stretched across millions of cubic kilometers of space. "All human installations, this is defense coordination." General Harrison's voice echoed from communication systems throughout the solar system. "Initiate Protocol 7. Target designation, Asteroid Field Sigma 77. Minimum power settings. Execute on my command." Light erupted from every world in the human solar system. Not visible light, but energy signatures that made Zethkri's sensors overload and fail. Streams of power reached across impossible distances, converging on the distant asteroid field. When the energy touched the asteroids, they simply disappeared. Not exploded, not vaporized, not scattered. Gone. In the span of 3 seconds, an entire asteroid field containing billions of tons of rock and ice ceased to exist. "That was approximately 1% of our total defensive capability," Chen said quietly. "Commander, please contact your incoming fleet. Convince them that this is not a battle they want to fight." Zethkri looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew. Each one showed the same realization that was growing in his own mind. The Kaltharan Empire had encountered something completely outside their experience or capability. They weren't facing a primitive civilization that could be conquered through superior technology. They were facing a civilization that had been waiting for them to arrive. Zethkri sat in his command chair, staring at the empty space where an entire asteroid field had existed moments before. His tactical computers were still trying to process what they had witnessed, displaying error messages and recalculating probability matrices that kept returning impossible results. "Sir," Communications Officer Plexini spoke carefully, "Commander Velthar is requesting immediate communication. The incoming fleet is demanding status updates." Zethkri closed his eyes. Commander Velthar was young, ambitious, and utterly convinced of Kaltharan superiority. He had built his reputation on brutal efficiency and overwhelming force application. Explaining the current situation to him would be like trying to convince a nova not to explode. "Put him through," Zethkri said finally. The main screen filled with Commander Velthar's imposing figure. At barely 40 years old, he was one of the youngest fleet commanders in Imperial history. His crystalline skin gleamed with the confidence of someone who had never faced a battle he couldn't win. "Zethkri." Velthar's voice carried the authority of someone backed by superior firepower. "Admiral Krexthor has briefed me on your situation. I'm arriving with 126 vessels, including 3 dreadnoughts. We'll have this human problem resolved within hours of arrival. Velthar, you need to understand. I understand that you've allowed a primitive species to intimidate you into inaction. That ends when I arrive. Prepare detailed tactical assessments of human defensive positions. We'll begin bombardment immediately upon fleet arrival. Velthar, listen to me carefully. The humans are not primitive. They possess technology that exceeds our capabilities. Attempting a military assault will result in complete fleet destruction." Velthar's laughter echoed across the bridge. "Fleet destruction? From humans? Zethkri, I've read the intelligence reports. They've barely achieved faster-than-light travel. Their weapons are chemical propulsion and primitive energy systems. One dreadnought could devastate their entire planet." "The intelligence reports are wrong," Zethkri said desperately. "They've been deliberately feeding us false information for decades. Their actual capabilities are..." He struggled to find words that wouldn't sound like madness. "They just eliminated an entire asteroid field instantly. Not destroyed, eliminated, made it cease to exist." "Asteroid fields can be cleared with sustained bombardment," Velthar replied dismissively. "Perhaps their mining technology is more advanced than expected. That doesn't constitute a military threat." Before Zethkri could respond, his science officer interrupted urgently. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the human leadership. They're requesting immediate communication with Commander Velthar." Velthar's expression shifted to surprise. "How do they know about me?" "They know about everything," Zethkri replied grimly. "Put them through on a 3-way channel." Secretary General Chen appeared on a split screen beside Velthar's image. Behind her, General Harrison studied displays showing the approaching Caltheran fleet with concerning detail. "Commander Velthar," Chen addressed him directly. "Welcome to our solar system. I'm Secretary General Chen of the United Earth Coalition. We've been monitoring your fleet's approach and would like to discuss the situation before you enter our defensive perimeter." Velthar's mandibles clicked with amusement. "Humans presuming to negotiate with the Caltheran Empire? Your defensive perimeter is irrelevant. You have 6 days to surrender unconditionally, or my fleet will demonstrate why resistance is futile." General Harrison stepped into view. "Commander Velthar, we'd like to provide you with some information that might influence your tactical planning. Are you aware that we've been monitoring your fleet composition, weapons capabilities, and strategic approach since you left Caltheran space? Impossible. Our long-range reconnaissance shows no human presence outside this system." "Commander," Chen said patiently, "we're going to transmit some data to your fleet. Please review it carefully." Zethkri's tactical display suddenly filled with detailed specifications of Velthar's entire fleet. Ship names, weapons loadouts, crew complements, shield frequencies, engine signatures, and even personal command codes appeared with impossible accuracy. "How did you obtain this information?" Velthar demanded, his confidence finally showing cracks. "We've been watching your empire for a very long time, Commander," General Harrison replied. "Every ship, every battle, every tactical decision. We know that your flagship, the Iron Dominion, has a slight power fluctuation in its port shield generator. We know that Captain Zexamali on your destroyer Razor's Edge has a habit of overcharging his weapons before combat. We know that your dreadnought Stormbringer has a blind spot in its sensor array that your crews haven't discovered yet." Velia. Thayer stared in stunned silence as the display continued, updating with information that should have been impossible for humans to possess. "Furthermore," Chen continued, "we know that your battle doctrine relies on overwhelming firepower concentrated against fixed positions. Unfortunately for your tactical planning, we don't use fixed positions." The display shifted to show human ship movements throughout the solar system. Zethkri watched in amazement as hundreds of vessels emerged from concealment behind planets, moons, and asteroids. They hadn't been hiding in the conventional sense. They had been invisible, using technology that rendered them completely undetectable to Caltheran sensors. "You see, Commander Velthar," General Harrison explained, "we don't fight wars the way you do. We don't line up fleets and trade shots until someone's shields fail. When we fight, we remove the enemy's ability to fight back. What does that mean?" Velthar asked, though his voice had lost much of its earlier arrogance. "It means that if your fleet enters our system with hostile intent, you won't get the chance to fire a single shot. Every ship in your fleet will simply stop existing before your weapons can charge." Zethkri watched his young colleague's face cycle through disbelief, anger, and slowly dawning fear. "You're attempting to intimidate us with impossible claims." "Commander," Chen said gently, "we're not trying to intimidate you. We're trying to save your life and the lives of everyone in your fleet." She gestured to someone off-screen, and the display changed to show a three-dimensional map of space around the Caltheran fleet's position. "Commander Velthar, can you see the area of space approximately 50,000 kilometers ahead of your current position? Yes, it's empty space between two small star systems. Please watch carefully." Light erupted from Earth, traveling impossible distances instantly. When it reached the designated coordinates, a sphere of energy formed that dwarfed anything Zethkri had seen before. The sphere pulsed once, twice, then expanded outward in all directions. When the expansion stopped, a perfect spherical void existed in space where before there had been cosmic dust, stray asteroids, and particles of matter. Everything within a radius of 10,000 kilometers had simply ceased to exist. "That was a demonstration shot from Earth alone," General Harrison said calmly. "We have 42 other worlds with similar capabilities positioned throughout this sector of space. Commander, we could eliminate your entire fleet from this distance without you ever knowing what happened." Velthar's image flickered as his ship's systems struggled to process the energy readings they had just detected. That's not possible. No civilization possesses that kind of power. No Caltharan civilization possesses that kind of power, Chen corrected. "Commander, humanity has been preparing for contact with hostile alien civilizations for over 2 centuries. Every technology we've developed, every installation we've built, every strategy we've created has been designed for this exact scenario. We're not asking you to surrender. General Harrison added. We're not demanding tribute or territory. We're simply asking you to acknowledge that humanity is not a target for conquest, and establish peaceful diplomatic relations instead. Sethkri found himself speaking before he realized he had made the decision. Velthar, they're telling the truth. I've witnessed capabilities that defy everything we know about warfare. This isn't a battle we can win. Sethkri, you've clearly suffered some kind of mental breakdown. When you arrive, Sethkri interrupted, you'll face the same reality I'm facing now. The choice between accepting that our fundamental assumptions about our place in the galaxy are wrong, or leading thousands of Imperial citizens to pointless deaths in an unwinnable war. Belthar's expression hardened. The Caltheran Empire does not retreat. We do not negotiate with inferior species, and we certainly don't surrender to humans. Then you're going to die, Sethkri said quietly, and everyone under your command is going to die with you, and their deaths will accomplish nothing except proving that pride is more powerful than wisdom. The three-way transmission crackled with tension as Velthar considered his options. Around him, Sethkri could see other Caltharan officers studying their own tactical displays, their expressions showing the same growing realization that Sethkri's crew had experienced. Finally, Secretary General Chen spoke. Commanders, we're going to give you time to discuss this situation among yourselves. Commander Velthar, your fleet has 4 days before reaching our defensive perimeter. We suggest you use that time wisely. 4 days passed in the strangest ceasefire Sethkri had ever experienced. The human fleet maintained their positions around his ships, but there were no threats, no aggressive posturing, no preparations for battle. Instead, they simply waited, with the patience of predators who knew their prey was already caught. During those 4 days, Sethkri made the most difficult decision of his military career. He composed a detailed report about everything he had witnessed, every capability the humans had demonstrated, every tactical assumption that had proven false. Then he transmitted it directly to Admiral Krexthor and the Imperial War Council, bypassing normal command protocols. The response was swift and predictable. He was officially relieved of command, stripped of rank, and ordered to return to Caltheran, space immediately for court-martial on charges of cowardice, dereliction of duty, and spreading false intelligence. His career was over. His reputation was destroyed. His life, as he had known it, was finished. But thousands of Caltheran lives might be saved. On the 4th day, Commander Velthar's massive fleet approached the human defensive perimeter. Sethkri watched from his bridge as 126 Imperial vessels, including 3 of the most powerful dreadnoughts ever constructed, prepared to engage an enemy they still didn't understand. Sir, Communications Officer Plexini announced quietly, Commander Velthar is requesting final communication. Sethkri looked around his bridge one last time. His crew had served with distinction for years, following his orders through battles across 17 star systems. They deserved better than to die in a war that couldn't be won. Put him through. Velthar appeared on screen, but he looked different than before. 4 days of studying human capabilities had aged him years. His confidence was gone, replaced by the grim determination of someone who knew he was walking into certain death, but couldn't see any alternative. Sethkri, Velthar said simply, I've read your report, I've reviewed our tactical analyses. I understand the situation now. Then why are you continuing the approach? Because I have my orders. Because the Empire expects obedience. Because, if I retreat without engaging, they'll send someone else who will make the same mistake with even more ships. Velthar paused. I'm going to attack the human positions. It will probably be the last thing I ever do. It will definitely be the last thing you do, Sethkri replied sadly. Velthar, this doesn't have to happen. Yes, it does. The Empire needs to understand what we're facing. My failure will accomplish what your reports cannot. Before Sethkri could respond, Secretary General Chen's image appeared on a split screen. Commanders, are you prepared for final negotiations? Velthar straightened in his command chair.
Human leadership, this is Commander Velthar of the Caltharan Imperial Fleet. I am authorized to offer you one final opportunity to surrender before we commence bombardment of your defensive positions. Chen's expression showed genuine sadness.
Commander, we cannot surrender to an empire that views us as property to be conquered. However, we can still avoid this conflict. Are you willing to consider alternatives? The Kaltharan Empire recognizes no alternatives to victory or death. Then we respect your choice, General Harrison said, stepping into view. Commander, we want you to know that we take no pleasure in what's about to happen. Your crews will be honored as brave soldiers who died following orders, even though those orders were wrong. Velthar's mandibles clicked once in acknowledgement. Commence attack. What followed lasted exactly 11 seconds. Zethkri watched in horror as light erupted from every human installation throughout the solar system. Not the relatively gentle energy that had eliminated the asteroid field, but something far more terrible. The convergent beams didn't travel at light speed. They simply appeared wherever they were targeted, ignoring the fundamental laws of physics. Every ship in Velthar's fleet was touched by those beams simultaneously. For one terrifying moment, 126 Imperial vessels hung motionless in space, outlined in blue energy that pulsed with contained destruction. Then they were gone. Not destroyed, not scattered into debris, not reduced to their component atoms. Gone. As if they had never existed. No wreckage, no energy signatures, no trace that the most powerful Kaltharan battle fleet ever assembled had ever occupied that region of space. The silence on Zethkri's bridge was absolute. His crew stared at their instruments, trying to understand what they had just witnessed. Sensors that had been tracking 126 ships now showed empty space. Communication channels that had been carrying the voices of thousands of Kaltharan crew members now carried only cosmic background radiation. Sir? Science Officer Telmora whispered. I'm not detecting any debris, any energy residue, any indication that those ships ever existed. It's as if they were simply edited out of reality. Secretary General Chen reappeared on the main screen. Her expression was somber, showing none of the satisfaction of victory. Commander Zethkri, we're truly sorry that this was necessary. We offered every alternative we could think of. They're all dead, Zethkri managed to say. No, Commander, General Harrison corrected gently. They're not dead. Death implies that they once lived and then stopped living. What happened to them is different. They simply no longer exist. They never suffered, never felt pain, never experienced fear. One moment they were, and the next moment they weren't. Is that supposed to be merciful? Zethkri asked. It's the most merciful form of warfare we know, Chen replied. Commander, we want to make you an offer. Zethkri looked around his bridge at his surviving crew. 42 ships remained from what had once been a combined fleet of 168 vessels. 42 ships filled with Kaltharan citizens who had just witnessed the impossible. What kind of offer? We'd like you to return to Kaltharan space and deliver a message to your empire's leadership. Tell them exactly what you've seen. Tell them that humanity is willing to establish diplomatic relations on equal terms, but will not tolerate further attempts at conquest. They'll never believe me. Perhaps not initially, General Harrison agreed. But we'll provide you with complete sensor records of everything that happened here, and we'll be willing to demonstrate our capabilities again if necessary. Chen leaned forward slightly. Commander, we know that returning with this information will end your military career. We know that your empire will likely treat you as a traitor or a madman. But you have the opportunity to prevent a war that could destroy millions of lives on both sides. Zethkri considered his options. He could refuse, attempt to fight, and achieve nothing except the elimination of his remaining ships. He could surrender and spend the rest of his life as a prisoner, or he could accept the burden of carrying an impossible truth back to an empire that wouldn't want to hear it. I'll deliver your message, he said finally, but I want something in return. What do you want? Chen asked. I want to know why. Why reveal yourselves now? Why not continue hiding and let the empire believe you're primitive? You could have avoided this entire confrontation. General Harrison and Secretary General Chen exchanged glances before Harrison answered. Because, Commander, we've been watching your empire expand for decades. We've seen what happens to civilizations that resist Kaltharan conquest. We've seen entire species enslaved or eliminated. We decided, Chen continued, that it was time for someone to tell the Kaltharan Empire that their expansion had limits. that not every civilization they encounter will be helpless against their technology and tactics. We chose to reveal ourselves to you because we believe the Kaltharan Empire, like humanity, is capable of growth and change. Your people aren't inherently evil, Commander. But your civilization has become accustomed to taking whatever it wants through force. Consider this a wake-up call, General Harrison added. The galaxy is much larger and more dangerous than your empire realizes. There are civilizations out here that make humanity look primitive. The Kaltharans need to learn cooperation and diplomacy before they encounter something that won't be as patient as we've been. Zethkri absorbed these words slowly. You're saying that humanity isn't even the most advanced civilization in the galaxy? Chen smiled sadly. Commander, humanity is barely out of its infancy compared to some of the intelligences that exist in this galaxy. We're just advanced enough and careful enough to survive contact with species like yours. 2 hours later, Zethkri stood in his quarters, composing his resignation letter. It was brief and to the point. I, Commander Zethkri of the Kaltharan Imperial Fleet, do hereby resign my commission and all associated duties, effective immediately. The Kaltharan Empire is not prepared for the realities of galactic politics, and I am not prepared to lead citizens to their deaths in pursuit of impossible victories. He transmitted the letter directly to Admiral Krexthor, then ordered his fleet to begin the long journey back to Kaltharan space. Behind him, Earth continued its rotation, peaceful and beautiful, giving no sign of the devastating power that lay hidden beneath its blue skies. As his ship turned toward home, Zethkri realized that his career as a conqueror was over. But perhaps if he was very lucky and very persuasive, his career as a peacemaker was just beginning.